I just like to, smoke a joint every now and then.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
You dick!
Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, brought to you by VoteProPot.com.
So I haven't gotten you guys gifts yet, but I'm in the process of you're gonna get them. Don't worry. I have them picked out. I don't have them in my possession yet.
Is it another 8x10 signed glossy? I got plenty of those of you, man.
Well, those are really nice, man. They go for like 10 cents a piece on eBay.
He got his autographed copies of his book.
Yeah.
I'll take that. That'd be cool.
You already have 5 of them each. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of VoteProPot-Cast. I'm Phil Adams.
I'm Jay Britton.
I'm Andrew McCready's.
And we are very glad to have you today. We've got a number of follow-ups to cover from stories we've done in recent podcasts. We have one on the Utah ballot initiative. We have a follow-up on the Farm Bill passing the House and Senate, and a follow-up on a story out of Colorado concerning drug-sniffing dogs. So if you've been tuning into some of our podcasts, some of these may sound familiar. Well, we're going to get you a little closer to resolution on some of them. In addition, we're going to talk about Maryland medical marijuana sales apparently blowing away projections. In New York, Governor Cuomo is readying a plan to legalize adult use, about freaking time. Marlboro company is dumping a ton of cash into a cannabis company called Cronos. A story that kind of pisses me off a little bit. Synthetic weed gets DEA approval while the real thing remains illegal. Andrew's going to tell us a story about a prank by a couple of Spanish altar boys, which I'm looking forward to. But first, before I get to an article that I want to share with you, I'm hoping all of you, if you enjoy the podcast, do us a favor and share it with a friend or two, someone who may share your views or maybe not, someone who would enjoy podcasts. And if you like what you hear, we would love to hear from you. Send us a comment, go down to the bottom of the show description and give us your thoughts. You can find it at VoteProPot.com.
And we'd like to get an email from you at VoteProPot@gmail.com.
And please like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Just search for VoteProPot.
And you will find it. Well, this first story is very encouraging. This is from the Washington Times. President Trump's Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, is discussing a review of marijuana's placement under the U.S. Controlled Substances Act, which apparently goes back to the Nixon administration, raising concerns over its effect on restricting scientific and medical research. Mr. Adams quoted as saying, quote, "Just as we need to look at criminal justice laws, rules, and regulations, we need to look at health laws, rules, and regulations, and that includes the scheduling system," unquote. He goes on to say, quote, "I'll take it somewhere else, marijuana. We need to look at the way we schedule different medications across the board, because one of the concerns that I have with marijuana is the difficulty that the folks have to do research on it because of the scheduling system." So this goes back to what we've been talking about practically since our first podcast. Cannabis is listed as Schedule I drug, meaning what, Andrew?
It's like the best of all of them. It's like the number one.
No, that's not what it means. It means that it has no legitimate medical applications, that it is prone to abuse and is addictive.
I think you woke him up, Phil.
And we know that none of that is true, based on a whole wealth of new knowledge and old knowledge on cannabis and cannabis products. It's bullshit. And so the good news is, the long and the short of all this is that the Surgeon General, the administration's top...
A Trump appointee,
and his top healthcare advisor is ready to take a look at this and say, you know what? Maybe this is a bad idea.
Now, do you think he ran this through Trump first before he went public with it? Because this was all over the news, so obviously it was a press
that's
conference.
hard to say. I really don't know, because I don't know how much
kind of
control.
It's a free for all out there. I mean, people in the government are doing whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is his job.
He's part of the administration, though, and you know, if you're in the top tier of the administration, you tend. My understanding is you tend to learn to run things through your higher ups, at least whoever's above you, before you go do a press conference. And obviously, this was something that he planned, it appears, to say in this press conference, very specifically about cannabis and Schedule 1. So I'm just wondering, we talk a lot about where Trump stands on all this and the whole Sessions clusterfuck and all that. I just wonder, if this isn't a signal.
Well, it seems to me in the past, there's been other Surgeon Generals that have come out and spoken about marijuana before and got their hands slapped.
That's right. You're right, Andrew.
Yeah, they have.
Coop did it.
Yep. Joycelyn Elders.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Elders.
And, right. Both of them came out saying pro-pot stuff.
And they got their hands smacked. You're exactly right.
That's right. And they had to shut up.
That were, I'm sorry, it was a Supreme Court justice. He was up for nomination, and they scrapped him because he smoked weed.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But I mean, it caught my attention. It caught my attention when I saw this the other day. That he specifically brought this up in a press conference.
This is not an underling necessarily. I mean, this is a Surgeon General.
No, exactly.
He's a top healthcare advisor, and he's not saying yes, we're going to deschedule it. He's saying let's look at it.
Yeah,
and from what I've gathered, Trump's MO is, okay, let's look at it. Let's see what happens. We always hear him saying that. Well, let's see what's going to happen. We'll talk about it. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I don't get the feeling that Trump has really strong opinions about cannabis legalization one way or the other.
Yeah, same
also,
here.
I don't think that's uppermost on his mind.
Right.
Also, I think, like, for example, the state of Washington said, we're going to start giving permits out for people to do research. Screw the government.
Yeah. We reported on that a couple episodes
ago. And also, the Surgeon General is just doing his job, considering 32 states now have medical marijuana.
Yeah, plus DC, right?
No, I mean, come on, he's the Surgeon General. I mean, and they're legalizing it. It's a big hot button issue, and he needs to chime in. He's
You're
only
right.
doing his job.
The point of his conversation was not that, hey, let's go legalize cannabis tomorrow. It was, we need to look at descheduling it or changing it from 1 to 2 or 3 at least, so we can research it. Obviously, it doesn't
study it.
Obviously,
that's right. That's not the same as legalizing it.
It doesn't meet the criteria for Schedule 1. Period.
It does not. Now, there are some other. This article goes on to quote some other very high-ranking Republicans and Democrats. Representative Bob Goodlatte of Virginia, a Republican and chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, said, quote, while there are many varying opinions on the issue of marijuana, one thing we can all agree on is that we need qualified researchers to study the science to determine if there are any potential medicinal benefits to chemicals derived from cannabis, end quote. That's big news. I think news. That would not have been uttered 10 years ago.
No way. Not by a Republican in Virginia.
And we've all heard about, we all know that Senate Minority Leader, New York Democrat Charles Schumer, has talked about introducing legislation. Well, he has introduced legislation that would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level, also by removing it from the controlled substance list. There is movement afoot on both sides of the aisle. this is not the time to relax by any means. This is the time for the full court press.
Okay, I have a story to follow up on the Utah medical marijuana ballot initiative. Now, I think a lot of us know that after 53% of voters in Utah passed Proposition 2, a group of politicians and the legislature got together and said they were going to rewrite the proposition.
In the Mormon Church.
Right.
Well, the Mormon Church and the Utah Medical Association were two, proponents.
Right. Yeah, we touched on this last week, but you have an update.
Right.
Yeah, they came to some agreement about it.
Right. Well, and apparently now there's a group called the People's Rights have petitioned the court to stop the legislation from messing with the ballot initiative that the people passed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because we talked last week about a lawsuit that was being filed. So this is like one step beyond that.
But there's another group called Truce, I believe, and the People's Rights have argued that the legislature has run beyond their rights by changing by doing what they've done.
Yeah, and to kind of recap, if you didn't catch last week, essentially, some folks filed a lawsuit saying they passed Prop 2, and then a bunch of people got together and negotiated, and then they wrote a bill which supersedes Prop 2 and says, okay, you guys got your shit passed, but we're going to fix it. And so
it's a much stricter bill.
Much stricter bill, and these are the citizens saying, fuck that. That's not what we passed. And so, yeah, that's what's going on.
And so now the Utah Supreme Court is saying, hold the phone.
Yep, that's great.
One of the proponents, I think their lawyers, was quoted saying, if this court fails to act and correct this aberration, unchecked power grabs by the respondents, the initiatives and the referendum power of the people is dead and should be given a proper, honorable burial by this court as it antiquates its outdated relic and earlier time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just seems to me that as citizens, besides voting, ballot initiatives is one thing we can do to have some kind of control and check on power. Now, if they take that away from us, I just think that's wrong. I think it's our right to do this, and they can't change it.
Well, but the way I see it is we all have the power to vote. And if these politicians go out and overextend, guess what? Their asses are going to get voted out pretty quick because it's going to make the people that voted for Prop 2 so angry, they're going to show up at the polls next time and say, you guys are gone. See ya. So, that's how the system works, which is fantastic. That's why we have the greatest system in the world.
Well, not all states have ballot initiatives. We don't have them in Maryland.
Right. That's right.
California has it. Utah has it. But other states,
some don't.
You elect your representatives, and they hammer out the politics of it in the sessions. But if you're going to have a ballot initiative in your state, or the right to a ballot initiative in your state, you really ought to respect the will of the voters.
Yeah. And if you don't, you should be voted out. So where does this go next, Andrew? Is this going to the Utah Supreme Court, do you think? Or
I think they're waiting. They're waiting at this point.
Interesting. Well, it'll be fun to watch.
This is the whole purpose we're here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
So you can identify the problems and try to fix it.
Absolutely.
No, that's exactly.
Whether it be by voting or just lobbying. You can call these guys.
Yeah. That's right.
There's so much you can do. If you go to VoteProPot.com and check out our Take Action page, and you'll see it right on the top menu, we offer a whole list of things that you can do, and we provide resources, links to resources that you can access to get involved and make your voice heard. We highly urge people to do that.
And then a follow-up on another story out of Colorado, but we covered a couple times about the drug-sniffing dogs. A real quick recap. A guy was pulled over. Cops brought in canine service. The dog sniffed the car. The dog showed that he saw something. So they arrested this guy. They searched it, or they had probable cause, they said, to search the car. They searched his car. They found a pipe for crack or something, and they arrested him. Well, this guy filed a lawsuit, and he won. The lawsuit said you did not have probable cause to search my car because that dog was trained to sniff for marijuana along with heroin and other drugs. So he may have smelled marijuana and you still searched my car. So that's the follow-up is that this story is going to the Colorado this case, is going to the Colorado Supreme Court. And they're going to hear and decide on the future of these dogs. On Wednesday, the Colorado Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in a case that will set standards for the use of police dogs' drug detection skills in this state and could have repercussions across the country. So,
Imagine it could.
Some of the arguments these guys are making is that these dogs cost up to $20,000 each to train.
To raise and train, yes.
Yeah, and there's 100 to 120 dogs in Colorado. So you're talking about almost $2.5 million. And essentially, if this case goes through and the Supreme Court of Colorado hears in favor of the gentleman who filed the suit, these dogs are worthless. The police can't use them anymore because they will no longer have probable cause to search a car because the dog could be smelling marijuana, which is legal.
So the future would be, or the solution would be in the future to, instead of having kind of, for lack of a better term, multi-purpose drug sniffing dogs, you have one group of dogs trained to sniff cannabis, another opiates. Is that what I'm getting?
No, I think what they're saying is they're just going to have dogs that they're going to train dogs for everything but cannabis. So the point being, the dogs that are in service now can no longer be used. They're going to have to start all over again, which is extremely expensive. And then what do you do with all these dogs? You got to place 120
well, they're
dogs.
Going to have to find good homes for them.
What they've done 4 years ago when Colorado passed, they started training dogs to sniff out drugs, excluding cannabis, because they saw this coming. So there's already dogs in the system that are trained.
Yeah, you're right, Andrew. I saw that in the article.
To sniff out drugs other than cannabis. The other thing they're doing,
but not very many.
Right. The other thing they're doing is transferring these dogs to areas where it's still illegal, which is another good thing. And they're retiring it. So it's not going to be that great a loss for them, I believe, because they've already started searching. Now, the big thing is, I believe, with this case is if they find that true, how is this going to affect dogs in courts in general?
Yeah.
So you're going to say, well, hey, my client could have sparklers in his trunk.
Right.
You know? How did you know it was an explosive?
Yeah, and they'll
gun?
cite this case as precedent.
Right.
It says here, 3 Colorado Court of Appeals judges overturned the man's conviction in 2017 and ruled that Kylo's alert by itself, Kylo was the dog, Kylo's alert by itself was not enough evidence to conduct a search because he could have been alerting to a legal amount of marijuana. See, now that's the other argument they're making. Well, our dog might smell marijuana, but you're only allowed so much, or you might not have a card, or you might this. There's still reason to search. So this guy's saying, I showed you my medical card. And then the cops attorneys are saying, well, maybe you had 6 pounds. And all 3 of the lower court judges threw it out. And so now it's in the Supreme Court, so we'll see what happens. It's kind of an interesting article.
Interesting
and again, it's another court case. And you know, I was reading some other stuff. There are going to be a lot of court cases concerning cannabis in the next 5 years. A lot. Because there's so much contradiction in laws and jurisdictions and so forth. So it's going to be fun
so
to
much
watch.
is going to have to shake out from this. The
Right.
implications are far-reaching. And the government has done this to itself. So,
Yep.
Screw them. Here is a story that kind of, I don't know, it irritates the hell out of me. The headline is Synthetic Marijuana Approved by DEA for Medicine While the Real Thing Remains Illegal. Apparently, the Drug Enforcement Agency or Administration has just announced that the same manufacturer of the notorious fentanyl has produced a synthetic marijuana product they deem more medically valuable and safer than real cannabis.
That's insane.
I mean, it's insane. The announcement was made a few weeks ago in the Federal Register by the DEA that the drug Syndros, a liquid form of synthetic THC, will now be classified as a Schedule II controlled substance, which means it can be legally prescribed by doctors.
Ridiculous.
Meanwhile, organic marijuana continues to be listed right alongside heroin among Schedule I controlled substances. Now, is this insane or what?
Makes your blood boil, doesn't it?
You know, it's like, you know, it's like making half and half illegal and Coffee Mate legal. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
It's the stupidest thing in the world.
It's pathetic.
You know, what they're trying to do is synthesize something that already exists, and to synthesize, they're going to make it in a laboratory to have, I guess, virtually the same properties as what they can extract from the plant. And the DEA says, okay.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
What kind of bullshit is that?
It's crazy, man. It just doesn't make any sense.
How is this stuff used?
Yeah, what's it used for?
You said it's. I mean, it's not like they don't smoke it. It's not like the chemically laced potpourri that they sell as synthetic marijuana
dangerous
at the drugstore,
stuff,
at the gas station.
Yeah, is it prescribed, Phil? Is it prescribed for ailments, I assume? And if so, which?
It's made by Insys Therapeutics, an Arizona-based pharmaceutical company that has been accused of using shady marketing practice to sell a spray form of the extremely potent synthetic opioid fentanyl. They're using this in place of fentanyl, and fentanyl is a hugely dangerous drug, very addictive drug.
That's what killed Prince.
That's right. And it's kind of a synthetic, opioid, which is basically heroin in pill form, and heroin is Schedule I. Syndros was granted preliminary Schedule II status in March and was listed alongside OxyContin, Percocet, cocaine, methamphetamine, and other drugs also considered to hold some medicinal value but have a high potential for abuse. Meanwhile, as a kind of a corollary story, the U.S. News and World Report said, and this is back several months ago, that New York City has seen a surge in use of synthetic marijuana, and more than 160 people have been hospitalized for it. A spike in emergency room visits in New York City by users suffering from high blood pressure, hallucinations, hot flashes, and psychotic meltdowns. Everything that Harry Anslinger said was true about marijuana, but isn't.
Yeah, but in fairness, that's a different compound. I think they call that synthetic weed because they make it look like weed. But it's got all kinds of crazy shit in it. I think it's got all kinds of...
It's potpourri sprayed with formaldehyde.
With horse tranquilizers and shit. It's not the same as...
But this drug is not that.
It's not, yeah, right.
It's not that. This is closer to Marinol, I get the impression.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually... It's what they've done is they've mimicked the compound, THC, and then created it in a lab and are marketing it that way, so... But
so the effect is going to be closer to being stoned than being on angel dust. Yeah,
the point is not that this is necessarily really dangerous. It's not. The point is it's the same fucking thing as the plant. Why would the plant be Schedule I and this Schedule II? All it is the same compound that's made in a laboratory instead of pulled from the plant. It's crazy. Makes no sense.
I think the headline put forth an optics that isn't really true. Because people see synthetic weed and they automatically think about the crap that you get at convenience stores.
So I guess I was kind of taken in by the headline here.
Yeah, you were, and that's right, Andrew. I think you're right, exactly.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up.
That's right. Phil, you ignorant slut.
Still, the point is, it's not any more or less dangerous than the plant, right? So
that's the point. That's the point. And it gets DEA approval while
in a flash.
Cannabis does not.
Right.
And we've been dicking around with weed for freaking 50 years, and we still can't get them to take it off Schedule I. You guys are Marylanders. I grew up in Maryland, but I'm in Virginia now. Were you guys aware that Maryland's medical marijuana sales hit $96 million in 2017? I
did not know that.
That is huge. That's twice what they anticipated. Maryland's medical marijuana industry brought in $96.3 million during its first year of operation. The Baltimore Sun reports that between 250 and 350 people a day are applying to be certified by the state to buy medical marijuana. There were nearly 52,000 patients who bought 730,000 individual products from dozens of licensed stores across Maryland since sales began legal late last December. So first-year sales have far exceeded one industry expert's earlier forecast of 46 million. So,
wow. So
how about
twice
that? And that's Andrew. We're seeing that everywhere, aren't we? I mean, we saw that in Vegas or Nevada. We saw it in Colorado.
Yeah. The demand outweighs the supply.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think the point here is you're familiar with Maryland. Maryland struggled. They struggled getting the system going, and they still blew away the estimates.
Well, what happened? It was very difficult to get it off the ground. It took them years to do it, and when they finally did, they sort of struggled. And then it seems they sort of got their act together, and more patients started, getting registered, and now the sales. And then the big thing was, I got my card. When that happened, boom, sales exploded.
That's what it was. It was you, a one man,
and that was just this past month, right? So most of that $96 million was yours, right? I didn't know you had that kind of dough.
He's at the dispensary every day,
I didn't know you had that kind of dough.
He walks in the door and they go, Andrew, hey, buddy.
Yeah, he's like Norm from Cheers. Andrew!
Actually, funny, I walked in there and a guy who used to sing in a band I played with, this guy Norman, was walking out. And so I walked in there and the first thing I did was, Norm! Two young men in Spain, as a matter of fact, two altar boys were arrested because they put marijuana in the incense burner during church services.
Are you serious?
Oh my Lord!
Yep. Okay. Apparently, they put weed in the incense burner in the Cathedral of Santiago Compostela. So apparently, they were celebrating the Epiphany of the Lord's service, and they said we all suddenly noticed an odd smell. And one of the men there was quoted going, "It did not seem as usual. It was a different smell, but it seemed familiar. I couldn't relate it. And sometimes my son's bedroom smells like that."
Well, I guess they all had an epiphany.
Following the mass, the two boys were arrested. The police questioned them, and the boys said it was a joke. It was an idea that came to us during Christmas Eve mass. So they said, we didn't put any more than half a kilo in, which is a pound.
I think they might have had their scales off a little bit there.
Well, actually, they showed the incense burner, and it's a big one. I mean, the one when I was an altar boy, it was a small thing that was on a chain with bells on it, and the priest would shake it, and smoke would come out. And it was my job. It was my job to put it's like a little piece of coal, and you lit that, and then you put like a disc. Then you put the incense on that. And it would smoke, and then he would, when he shook it, it sort of fed the flame, the coal, and it would smoke up.
Right.
And honestly, when I was doing it one time, going, I could put some hash in here. That might not be pretty, but
hash.
Oh, I could just imagine these two kids. Hey, Pablo, man, it'd be funny.
Yeah. Well, they said
we should put some weed in the incense.
So they said we dropped half a kilo into the incense burner, and we were sure that all the people left the cathedral happier than they've ever been.
Oh yeah, I'm sure a few of them saw God.
They were freed, and they're not going to press charges.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Glad to hear it. Little lighthearted fun.
Yeah,
what the hell? Christmas spirit and all.
No harm, no foul. Well, speaking of investing a lot of money, Marlboro owner Altria is dumping a ton of cash in a Canadian cannabis company, the Cronos Group. The tobacco giant that brings us Marlboro is investing $1.8 billion in Cronos Group.
Holy moly.
That will give Altria a 45% stake in the company. with an option for Altria to increase its stake to 55% over the next 5 years, which would be obviously controlling interest. So this is a Canadian company that's already deeply involved in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, they're huge.
And over the next 5 years, they could be owned by Marlboro.
That's something.
So,
yeah, that's big news.
Altria's stock has fallen nearly 25% this year. They're not alone. A lot of companies have been not all that great in the last few months. And the company is expected to report revenue growth of only about 1% this year and in 2019. Howard Willard, Altria's CEO, said in a statement, quote, "Investing in Cronos Group as our exclusive partner in the emerging global cannabis category represents an exciting new growth opportunity for Altria." So clearly the money is there. The business is there. The smart money is going after it. So,
well, all this happened when Canada legalized it federally on the national level, and now there's companies up there that can legitimately do business. And because you can't do, what are you going to bring up $1 billion in cash to some company and give it to them?
Right.
In the United States, yeah. So
well, and it's a Canadian company, so all the business is through a Canadian company. But, that's revenue for an American company. So.
Yeah, well, they're out of Richmond. And in fact, Altria is huge. They own Philip Morris. So they are the largest tobacco-based company in the world. And here they are investing $2 billion.
It only seems the reason in any kind of industry, if you like the tobacco industry, if something comes up and starts taking a significant part of your sales away.
Good point.
You,
you're going to jump in there.
The first thing you do is you get into that business.
Yeah,
that's right.
So alcohol and tobacco are going to suffer, even pharmaceuticals for that matter, are going to suffer.
Right, Andrew.
They're going to lose sales to these companies. So it only stands to reason they're going to jump in, and understandably so to a degree. But we
much
just
like
can't let them
much like Coors and Molson are doing the same thing. They're investing billions as well in cannabis beverage products in Canada and soon to be in U.S.
Well, that's right. Canopy Growth Company has already received a multi-billion-dollar investment from Corona owner Constellation Brands.
Right.
And Coca-Cola, according to the article, was rumored to be considering an investment in Canadian cannabis company Aurora. But it got shot down in the talk last October. CEO James Quincy said the company, quote, doesn't have any plans at this stage to enter the CBD market. So, but the movement is there, the interest is there, and if the deals make sense, they'll make the deals.
All right, guys, I got one from the Hill. Cuomo readying plan to legalize recreational marijuana. Now, we've discussed Cuomo, and he was a thorn in all the advocates' side for the last couple of years. He's been very anti-legalization.
Very
and
anti.
I'll tell you what changed him was running against, what was her name, Andrew? Who's
Cynthia
running for
Nixon?
Governor? Huh?
Cynthia Nixon, yep.
Cynthia Nixon, right. Because she was very pro-cannabis, and she started to make some moves in that race against him. And he was running opposed to cannabis. And, of course, as we discussed before, he changed his tune as things got closer and the election got a little bit closer. She got a little closer in the numbers to him. And then he started saying, you know what, well, maybe we'll study it. So anyway, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo will soon unveil a plan to legalize recreational marijuana in the state, his office announced Tuesday. The goal of this administration is to create a model program for regulated adult use cannabis. And the best way to do that is to ensure our final proposal captures the views of every New Yorker. So it looks like New York's coming our way. And we've talked about that.
Well, they're not going to capture the views of every New Yorker. I mean,
yeah, right.
No matter what they say.
Maybe not every.
It's kind of silly.
Cuomo's position on marijuana has shifted significantly in recent years. He told reporters in February, that's not even a year ago.
Recent months, recent weeks.
Right. That he opposed the legalization of marijuana for recreational use, calling it a gateway drug. So he's really turned he's made a 180 on the whole thing. Can you say weaselly politician?
Yeah, I mean, he must have gotten together with Kennedy from Massachusetts.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's the old political axiom: if you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat.
That's
apparently
right.
in New York, what they've done, they've stopped arresting people for possession and on the streets. So if you're smoking a joint somewhere and a cop sees you, he's not going to arrest you anymore.
Oh, really?
So apparently, as they say, you walk down the streets of New York now, it's just fucking pot smoke everywhere.
No kidding. I haven't been to New York in a while.
Cuomo will do anything to get elected.
Yeah.
And backing pot is a no-brainer.
It's an easy no-brainer, exactly.
I think it should be an easy one. I mean, we are getting to the point where being anti-legalization is more of a liability politically than being pro.
Yeah, I think you're right, Phil, and that's exciting.
I think this is it used to be the reverse, and now, like I say, it looks like it's beginning to reach a tipping point.
I like to make a prediction that when recreational happens in New York City will quickly become one of the centers for cannabis in the world.
Oh, I bet you're right.
When it comes to
I bet you're right.
The merchandising of it, when it comes to the fashion of it,
Sure.
the processing, the food, the strains,
Yeah.
they're gonna go nuts.
Oh yeah, the marketing power in that city is just unbridled.
And they're gonna, and all of a sudden, whole areas like the Far Rockaway and up in the Bronx and parts of Queens, someone's gonna go in there and dump tons of money and build huge facilities.
I can't wait. Let's go, guys.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. We are so glad that you are making this a part of your day. And we want to keep giving you some of the best and most up-to-date and current and topical information that we can. So check us out at VoteProPot.com.
Send us an email at VoteProPot@gmail.com.
And please like and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Just search for Vote Pro Pot.
And as always, we hope that you will stay informed, stay involved, and vote pro pot.
Wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. But here I am in New York City, hiding out in Central Park, getting kidnapped by the police today sometime before dark. But I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. The judge looked down upon me, frowned. He said, "Kid, get on your way. Just don't start out your morning with espresso and a J." I said, "I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day." Hitched on out to Portland, caught a ride up to BC, took the bus over to the neighborhood to have a bowl with my coffee. Now I'm up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla